Alright, YouTube, it was requested that I make a video on the topic of the occult, spiritualism, the existence of spirits, I believe, as well. So I'm going to preface the video by saying, from my perspective, and this is only mine, as I've told you before, I'm an independent Satanist, I'm an occultist, I have a particular and unique view on the existence of things of a spiritual nature. I don't follow the notion that spirits are beings with an intelligent nature. They may be, I don't know, but I'm assuming, I don't believe that spirits, in the common term sense, the idea of ghosts, demons, angels, things of that nature, I don't believe that they're intelligent beings. I would say that the energy and the power behind such things, the idea of being possessed, the idea of guardian angels, intermediary spirits, familiar spirits, the use of rituals which use a specific name, such as Satan, Asmodeus, even Jesus, the idea of prayer, these are all rooted. The power of this ritualism doesn't stem from the intercession of an intelligent being. It stems from the use of the terms which are imbued with a humanistic power. That is, that the potential for their power comes from the idea that if a large group of people, for instance, are gathered in church, and here's just an example, and they're all praying, they're not getting power from Jehovah. They're not getting power from Jesus. What they're getting power from is psychological energy. You've got a large group of people gathered together for one purpose, doing the same thing, all exuding energy. The brain works on electrical energy. It's just a different form of energy. It's spiritualism. The idea being that when you get those people together, or if it's one solitary practitioner with an ideal that's shared by large groups of other people, or if it's a person with a psychology that's powerful enough to manifest the power themselves, that they can cause change in the world. They may not be causing change. For instance, if I perform a satanic curse, and I just randomly curse another person just for kicks, it's probably not going to do anything. And this is my belief. Again, others might disagree. I believe that in order to work a ritual, or in order for a prayer to work or something, it has to be structured in a manner that exudes a great deal of psychological energy. It has to be done in the proper manner. That's why I believe in individualistic magic. My rituals are entirely individualistic. I may call on the names of spirits, various deities, paranormal forces, etc. I'm not calling on them because I believe that there's an actual being named Satan. I'm calling on them because of the symbolic quality, and I'm using the symbol of Satan. For instance, I would use Satan as a symbol of rebellion. I'm doing something that's against the mainstream. I'm setting myself against the mainstream message, against the mainstream moral majority, the idiot sheeple that follow 2,000-year-old desert cult myths. So I use the symbol of Satan, not as a being. I'm not saying Satan give me power. What I'm actually saying, although it may appear that, it may appear in the ritual by the words that I'm using, the incantation, the music, the poem, whatever, it may appear that I'm embracing the idea of a literal being Satan. In reality, what I'm doing is I'm setting up the ritual around the symbol of Satan as the rebel. And that imbues me with the psychological power associated with Satan. It's not given power because it's a being, it's given power because the majority of the Western world seems to believe that there is a being, Satan. They imbue it with certain attributes, and I'm taking those attributes and using them for my own power. For example, I performed a satanic destruction ritual some time ago against a person who had wronged me. I had a great deal of emotion around how they had wronged me. I was very upset. I captured that psychological energy, and I worked a destruction ritual upon that person. Now, perhaps it's important that you know a little bit of background about how it actually played out. I had overdosed on a synthetic chemical, as some of you probably know. And as a result of that, my behavior was changed for a long period of time, and it ruined a relationship I was in. What happened is this other person wronged me by stepping in, taking advantage of the other person in the relationship, and sort of moving them away from me and manipulating them. That caused me a great deal of distress. And then they were just acting like an asshole, so that didn't help. So I saw the situation, and I felt a great deal of negative psychological energy. I created a ritual to expel that negative psychological energy from me and to put it on the other person. They weren't aware of the ritual being done. Nobody else was aware that this ritual had been done, at least nobody who was affected by it. An hour after I performed the ritual, it was brought to my attention that that person overdosed on the same synthetic substance that I had overdosed on and had gone into seizures. Now, from my view, from someone else's view who doesn't believe me, I'll call it, well, that's just a coincidence. Well, that's all well and good. If you deny the power of magic after you've successfully employed it, you've lost all that you've gained. That's from the idea of Satanism. Now, I don't follow the Church of Satan, but those are wise words indeed. It goes beyond the idea of a coincidence that it just happened to happen an hour after I performed the ritual. What happened is I was building up a mental and psychological link with the other person, and I was expelling my own negative psychological energy onto them, destroying them in the process. And it worked. And as a result, my relationship is repaired. I'm happy. The other person is miserable now, and has been for quite a few months. It worked. Now, I would say, and here's something I will probably differ with most Satanists in the world. I believe that prayer, such as Christian prayer, has the potential at least for the same spiritual power. Now, hear me out on this. The idea of prayer is different from the idea of an occult ritual, and it's been explained through anthropology as this. When the first shaman and religious groups started doing their thing, they would command their gods to imbue them with power. You know, I command you in the name of, you know, blah, 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 whatever deity they happen to worship, or deities. The war god, you know, let us be victorious, blah, blah, and so forth. If the ritual didn't work, and they were defeated in battle, or the person they were trying to heal died, or whatever, the shaman would often be killed, or outcast from the group and never reproduce, and so forth, be extirpated from the location. You know, the shaman would be kicked out of the tribe. So over time what developed was the idea of prayer. Instead of commanding the war god to help you, you would ask the war god to help you. Thus, if it didn't work and you lost in battle, the shaman could go and they could say, I know what's wrong. So-and-so transgressed one of our laws. This woman over here committed adultery. That dude over there didn't color his spear properly. And the shaman was saved. This is how modern religions developed. Instead of commanding, you would ask. Therefore, it's no longer the shaman's power, it's the will of that divine creature that you're asking for assistance. The idea of asking rather than commanding is more to modern religions. What I do in my rituals, I'm not doing either. I may be using linguistic forms that appear to be commanding certain spirits, and there is an aspect of command involved. If you believe you have the ability to command these supernatural forces, you are given power by these supernatural forces. That's not to say I can wave a stick around, say abracadabra, to anyone on the street and curse them into a toad. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't make sense. What you can do is harness positive or negative energy and use it to affect change. In my own ritual form, I have two ritual forms that I follow. The first ritual form is just the basic satanic ritual format of curses or blessings or different occult rituals around certain holidays and so forth. They're not going to work unless you have a great deal of psychological energy invested in them. If I absolutely, purely, and barely hate a person, my ritual is more likely to be successful than if I'm just sort of, meh, well, they annoy me, so I'm going to curse them. There's no point in it. The idea of wasting your time even bothering to curse them is just useless. The other ritual form that I use is music. I believe, and this takes off from the idea of Radio Werewolf mainly, I agree with Shrek in his idea that music is perhaps the most potent ritual form that's possible to be used. At least as far as we know now, music is number one as far as ritualism goes. You think about it. Let's say a person's growing up and they start listening to Justin Bieber and they start talking about swag all the time and sagging their pants, or they listen to Jay-Z or or, Kid Cudi, or any of a million different bands or singers, they start emulating the ideals of the music and the person themselves. They agree with the linguistic form used in the music. They begin mimicking it. It has changed their psychology. Nobody can deny that music changes the psychology of the listener. That's what my own musical form is about. My idea is putting the music out there. People who are already edging towards the idea of darkness, the occult, ritualism, they're the ones that are going to listen to my music. They will imbibe the message in the music, whether it be the words, the title, the music itself, whatever. They will imbibe that message and incorporate it into their own psychologies, thus bringing people in line with my own views. Now, that's not to say that I can convert people to Satanism by making a song about Satanism, although it has been done. That would require more of a mainstream appeal. That would require more professionally made music, a larger audience, more energy at whatever venue you're playing at, could produce a significant psychological change. If you got enough black metalheads together in a concert, and the singer was skilled enough at using linguistic forms, and the band was skilled enough at playing music that could bring about almost a trance-like state, because music can be used to bring a hypnotic trance on people. We know this from studying shamanism, like the iboga rituals of the Africans with their god Bwiti. You can put people in a trance. Voodoo, same thing. A million different religions around the world. If you got enough of them together, you could potentially set off a small war. You could get 10, 20,000 black metalheads together, and the band could lead them down the street pillaging, raping, and murdering everything in sight. You could theoretically do that. It would take a great deal of psychological power, both on the part of the band and or singer, and on the part of the people who were actually listening. Their psychologies would need to be involved, and there'd always be people who would run away screaming in fear because they wouldn't want to take part in such a ritual. But the idea of actual literal spirits, beings possessed of intelligence, I do not believe in. Now, I subscribe to the string theory, so on one hand, such entities could exist in another dimension. Maybe they are able to cross over into ours, but I've seen no evidence of them. What I have seen evidence of is the power of ritualism, the power of a specific ritualized behavior put into play to change people's psychology. And as I've pointed out, even something as simple as shaking someone's hand after a conversation when you meet them the first time, that's a ritualized behavior. It self-perpetuates simply because it's expected behavior. It's all about setting up expected mental and physical behaviors in conjunction with one another and allowing them to self-perpetuate. The idea of Satanists as going like this, saying, "Hail Satan," wearing black and so forth, it's a self-perpetual behavior. It has nothing to do with that being prescribed by the actual religion itself. It has to do with the psychological change on the individuals within that religious movement being already in psychological line with the idea of darkness, the left-hand path, or whatever. So for my own ritual purposes, I do not believe in spirits as actual entities. I believe in them as energetic forces. You basically say the term spirit applies wherever there's polarized mental energy, positive or negative. And you can term it what you will. The Christians would say if it's positive, it's an angel. If it's negative, it's a demon. And they're all that you can be divinely inspired or you can be possessed by demons. It's just energy. It's just a psychological change in the person who's undergoing it. If you're being possessed by demons, as the Christians would term it, what you're really possessed by is an intense negative energy. The exorcism, which also does have a spiritual power involved, not because of God or Jesus, but because of the linguistic forms used by a priest or whatever, the idea of overcoming the negative energy with a greater force of positive energy through linguistic forms, and it all ties into anthropology. I'm majoring in anthropology, and I encourage all of you to study it, because you'll learn more than you've ever learned before about ritualized behaviors and so forth. The idea of overcoming the negative energy with the positive energy by imbuing that person in the name of a specific deity does work. It doesn't work because God's intervening. It works because the priest or, the congregation or whatever is intervening on their behalf. It gives them a great deal of psychological energy. It causes an end to the psychotic break known as possession, and they're healed. So that's basically what I think about spirits and ghosts and so forth. I think they're just basically ritualized energy. Peace out.